This meeting is being held in compliance with the Brown Act. SCAG offices are open for members of the public to attend and participate in person. Instructions for providing public comment have been provided in advance and are also included in the agenda packet. If a member of this body is attending remotely but is not at a location specified on the agenda, they may observe and comment as a member of the public, but may not participate in any member discussion or voting of this body. For all members participating remotely, please ensure your microphone is muted when not in use. Please state your name during deliberations and whether making a motion or offering a second. Any voting member or member of the public calling into this meeting by telephone can press *6 to mute and unmute. All telephone participants should identify themselves prior to speaking. SCAG encourages all members of the public to participate in its meetings. We are committed to holding meetings accessible to people with disabilities. For members of the public requiring ADA accommodation, please call 213-236-1895. SCAG offers free interpretation services for members of the public needing information in another language. Please call 213-236-1895. The meeting will now begin.
Lead us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, I'll now open the meeting for the public comment period of the meeting for items not on our agenda. Do we have any public comments?
Looks like not, Mr. Chair. I can also confirm that we did not receive any written comments prior to yesterday's deadline.
Perfect.
If I could just take a minute, Mr. Chair, for one housekeeping item.
Sure.
We are doing a hybrid meeting today, as everyone knows, and some of the participants on Zoom might be in a room that is not designated or not specified. We do need to ensure that every member participating has indeed found themselves at a location that is posted on the agenda. If you are at a location, could you please confirm for us that you are, I'm sorry, if you have a Zoom designation without your name on it, could you please let us know so that we can properly name you on the Zoom? Mr. Clerk, do we see anyone else who hasn't?
None other than the one identified as unlicensed room.
Okay, so we have one participating member, I hope, at something called an unlicensed room. Would you unmute yourself and let us know who you are so that we can properly identify you on the Zoom screens?
Hey, sorry, legal counsel. I didn't know that it popped up as unregistered room, but this is Mayor Gabriel Reyes, the city of Alonso. I wasn't able to make it all the way down, and I should have gone to a SCAG location down the hill, but I came back to the Alonso City Hall.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're going to confirm whether Alonso City Hall is listed as a location. If not, we're going to ask that you, to the extent you want to participate, you do so as a member of the public when the chair calls for public comment. Just give us a second. Mr. President, Mr. Chair, you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm now going to close the public comment period for matters not listed on the agenda and move us into the consent and action items. So our consent calendar. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on the consent calendar? See any? Nobody? We're good? In order to save time, if anybody wants to pull anything from consent calendar, I ask we have staff presentations before moving to the roll call vote for the consent calendar. Would anybody like to pull anything from consent? Okay.
Mayor Navarro has a second.
Mayor Navarro, go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself.
I apologize. If we need a motion on this, I'll move the item.
Thank you.
Calamasa seconds.
We have a motion and a second for consent. Are we going to try and do everything on one? What we're going to
If that would work for you, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. Mayor Navarro, if I could just beg your indulgence for 1 second. We do have one action item on today's agenda in addition to the consent calendar. I'm looking at Mr. McCallan, who likes to be very efficient. So if we could take the staff report on the action item and then wrap all of those votes up into one, since we are doing roll call as required by the Brown Act. So we end up doing only one roll call instead of two. Mr. Mayor Navarro, you're still on mute. So if you give me a
Here we
thumb.
go. Sorry about that. I concur, and I will amend my motion to include the action item.
Okay, may I have a second on that? Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Calamasa agrees.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our first action item, our only action item. And Warren Whitaker is going to present this for us. This is approval of Federal Highway Administration programming procedures.
Good morning, Chair Judge, Vice Chair Wong, TC members. This morning, you're being asked to recommend RC approval of the programming procedures for FHWA administered federal funding. For context, in its role as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, SCAG is responsible for selecting FHWA funded projects in the SCAG region. Namely, for projects funded with Carbon Reduction Program, or CRP, Surface Transportation Block Grant, or STBG, and Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement Program, or CMAQ funds. The process for project selection in the SCAG region was outlined in a compliance action plan approved by the RC in February 2023 and subsequently refined through the STBG CMAQ program guidelines approved by the RC in June 2023. In December 2023, the EAC, on behalf of the RC, approved the CRP program guidelines. 11 months ago, the RC approved updates to the STBG CMAQ program guidelines specific to the selection of projects for federal fiscal year 27 and federal fiscal year 28 federal apportionments. At your last meeting, the TC recommended that the RC approve the federal fiscal year 27 and federal fiscal year 28 STBG CMAQ project award list and contingency list, which was approved by the Regional Council in December 2025. The primary goal of the regional programming procedures before you this morning is to outline the post-award requirements for programming and project delivery. These programming procedures are complementary to previously approved program guidelines. The program procedures were developed in collaboration with the region's 6 county transportation commissions over the course of a year plus of engagement. The programming procedures address programming projects in the Federal Transportation Improvement Program, obligation management and obligation deadlines, post-award project changes, and regional coordination. The intent of these procedures is to prevent and minimize loss of federal funds to the SCAG region and to provide flexibility in delivering transportation projects. Upon RC approval, SCAG staff will work with the county transportation commissions and project sponsors to ensure compliance. SCAG staff will be providing resource materials on our website, as well as hosting a Toolbox Tuesday on February 10th, that's this next Tuesday, which reviews the overall federal transportation project development process. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? No? Okay.
Looks like not.
All right. I will now entertain comments from the members of the Transportation Committee. Anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands. Great. All right. Then we already have a motion and a second for this, so let's move on to the roll call vote.
Zeal Ahir, Javier Amezcua, Adele Andrade Stadler, Phil Becerra,
Yes.
Ryan Bayless,
Yes.
Ryan Bergson,
Yes.
Jeanette Burns, Denise Delgado,
Yes.
Jonathan Dumitru, John Dutre,
Yes.
Bubba Fish,
Yes.
thank you, received. Jason Gibbs, William Go,
Yes.
Jan Harnick,
Yes.
Laura Hernandez,
Yes.
Lauren Hughes Leslie, Heather Hutt, Mike Judge,
Yes.
Fred Jung,
Fred Jung, aye.
Trish Kelly,
Yes.
Lauren Kleiman, Linda Krupa,
Yes.
Andrew Lara, Carlos Leon, Bridget Lewis, Clint Lorimore, Ken Mann,
Ken Mann, yes.
thank you, Steve Manos, Larry McAllen,
Yes.
Marcia McLean,
Yes.
Tim McOsker, Dennis Michael,
Yes.
Linda Molina,
Yes.
Carol Moore, Suzette Mullins, Juan Munoz Guevara, Ara Najarian,
Yes.
Frank Navarro,
Yes.
Nikki Perez, David Reddy,
Yes.
Gil Rebolard,
Yes.
Ed Reese, Crystal Ruiz,
Aye.
Ali Saleh,
Yes.
Steve Sanchez,
Aye.
Tim Sandoval,
Yes.
Zach Schwank, Emma Sharif, Assam Sheikh, Marty Siminoff,
Yes.
Jeremy Smith, Ward Smith,
Yes.
Wes Speak,
Aye.
Cynthia Sternquist,
Yes. Here.
you, Steve Ty, Bill Uphoff,
Yes.
Michael Vargas, Scott Voits, Colleen Wallace,
Yes.
Alan Wapner, Alicia Weintraub,
Yes.
Thomas Wong,
Yes.
Zen Wu.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes 41 in favor and 0 against.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Moving on to our information items. Today, the Transportation Committee is pleased to welcome Darren Kettle, Chief Executive Officer of Metrolink, Southern California's regional commuter rail system. Metrolink serves as a critical backbone of the region's multimodal transportation network, providing passenger rail service across 6 counties and connecting major employment centers, education institutions, and activity hubs throughout the SCAG region. Mr. Kettle works closely with Metrolink's member agencies, regional partners, and state and federal stakeholders to ensure the system continues to support Southern California's goals. Today's presentation will provide an overview of Metrolink's operations, governance structure, and strategic priorities, and will help the committee better understand Metrolink's role within the broader regional transportation system. At this time, it's my pleasure to invite Darren up to the podium for his presentation, and it's good to see you again.
Oh, actually, so all right, there we go. All right. Yeah, and I'm in charge of running a railroad. Can't operate a microphone. Well, again, Mike, again, it's good to see you, fellow Ventura County representative. So yes, I'm Darren Kettle. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Metrolink. I've been in this role for about nearly 4.5 years now. And a very interesting time to take on the role and responsibility of operating Southern California's regional rail with all that has happened in that 4.5 years and coming out of COVID and how the world has so significantly changed the nature of our workforce and our travel patterns and everything else. So it has been, as I say oftentimes, quite a wild ride. I continue to live in Ventura County. So I am the CEO, but I am also a regular customer of Metrolink. I board at the Camarillo station at a bright and early hour of 6:08 and catch a train into Los Angeles in our offices. If we share office space here, just a couple floors down where our main offices are. So as Chairman Judge indicated, I have a bit of an agenda that I want to get through today. This is it briefly. I do have a slide deck, but I'm going to do what I can to get through it. And I'd like to spend more time with Q&A if at all possible. So this is a little bit about what we're going to talk about. But what is Metrolink and why do we matter? Who we are? We exist to make life better in Southern California. We serve a massive region in Southern California. Every trip we run helps riders reclaim their time, reduce their impact on the environment, and explore more of what the region has to offer in Southern California. The best way to sort of, I'm a big map guy. The best way to sort of understand the way we serve this region is this slide. We have 7 lines, 545 route miles all over Southern California. We do we serve 6 counties. We do extend as far south as Oceanside into San Diego County. 545 route miles makes us the 3rd largest regional passenger rail system in the country. We serve or have the capability or the ability to serve half of the state of California's population. We want to continue to grow our ridership. We know the potential is there, but we are all Southern Californians. And we still have yet to be able to figure out how to break that love affair with our cars. But we're doing everything we can to try to change that culture. And as we look forward to events coming up in the future. Our membership, we are a joint powers authority as local elected officials. You're all very familiar with that terminology. The 5 counties in our system that support us include the Ventura County Transportation Commission, where I served as its executive director for nearly 14 years. OCTA, the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, where I was the director of freeway construction for 7 years, and RCTC, where I was, there we go. And I, believe it or not, I was the director of government affairs for RCTC. This is to say that I know where member agencies come from because that is where some of my roots are. But that is us. I have a number of my board members that we share here with the SCAG Regional Council. And so you all know who you are. They are our greatest champions. And it's been a privilege working for my board in this region. Talking a little bit about funding, and there's a couple of slides here, the nature of our operating funds and the nature of our capital funds. This is a significantly different slide today than it would have been 5 years ago. A significant part of our operating funds now come from our 5 member counties. This is a big change from where we were pre-pandemic, and maybe I will explain why that is. I won't go through every piece of the pie chart, but you can see the substantial amount of funding that does come from our 5 member agencies. 72% of our operating costs come from those 5 counties. On the capital side, it's a little bit more balanced, where we see some funding at the local level, also from the federal level. I want to make sure that we recognize the IIJA, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law from a few years ago, that substantially increased state of good repair funding for railroads. And we have been a beneficiary of that. The funding does flow to our counties, and then it gets passed along to us, and then the state funding. Ridership and trends. So this has been a question that I have had to address for my full 4.5 years at Metrolink. Things were sort of chugging along just fine up to March of 2020. And then for all of us, the world changed. And you can see about what our ridership was, right around 12 million annual riders. It is in Southern California, we were serving that on our 7 lines. And of course, then it completely fell off the table with COVID. We were at generally averaging about 40,000 daily boardings on our trains prior to the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we dropped to just about 4,000. So down to about 10% of our pre-COVID numbers. Probably not a big surprise. We are a commuter, or have been a commuter railroad. And when people stopped commuting, we lost our riders. And then as we come out of the COVID and you start to see our growth, it is still slow. And we're not alone in this. And I have a slide I'll show you here in a second that shows commuter railroads across the country are dealing with the same dynamic. But we are slowly coming back, but we're coming back differently. So before the pandemic, you can see from this slide that the adults made up a significant, I'll call it generally commuters, your standard everyday commuter prior to the pandemic made, you can see this slide, that blue portion of it is a significant part of mainly just commuters, with students and youth being the orange, and then seniors and disabled, the green. So what's changed, though, as we've come out of the pandemic is 50% of our riders now are senior and disabled. They're discounted riders, senior and disabled, or students, or military or veterans. So as we've come out of the pandemic, we have changed sort of who we are from being only about the commuter to having to be something different. And that has been intentional. The Metrolink Governing Board knew we could not continue business as usual. And so we've made some changes, and I'll get into that in a second. But you can see then where we are with active students. This is a slide we're particularly excited about because students are our next users of public transit. They are public transit users now, but if we introduce them to bus and rail services and how it can use, that is our future. So we have just eclipsed the number. We have nearly 25,000 active student mobile accounts in this region. We had a wonderfully successful program for about a year and a half where we allowed all students to ride our trains for free. Now, nothing's free. We had a grant that covered the cost of students riding our trains, but it was tremendously successful, and we saw a substantial increase in students using our train. And I will, there's another reason why students have been able to use it, but I regularly hear from students about the success of that. And in fact, just recently on my LinkedIn account, a student at University of Leuven said, "Hey, is there any way you can bring back the free pass program? We like the discounts, but free is better." Of course. And I wish we could, but the grant, we were so successful that the grant is no longer available. We've drained the grant, so we had to go somewhere different. Now, I mentioned earlier the nature of ridership and how it's recovered. We are a commuter railroad. What you see listed here are what I'll call our peer agencies across the country, including the Chicago area, New York, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, the DC area. And you can see how we all were recovering. We had a fairly steep incline coming out of COVID, but we have also all somewhat plateaued in this new normal that we have today, as we recognize that the nature of the workforce has changed. I mentioned that here I am, the CEO of Metrolink, the regional rail service, and I'm able to work from home a couple days a week from my home office in Camarillo. And that is, if I can do that, so many other professionals, white collar, are able to do that. And that is exactly what we've seen. So we've got to figure out how do we can't just be, we are not going to be sustainable if we only stick with the commuter. Commuter is still going to be our bread and butter, don't get me wrong, but we have to expand it in new markets. And you can see across the country, we've all had to deal with this, whether you're in New York, the Bay Area. Of course, the Bay Area right now is really struggling. And I don't know if you heard this news, but they've got a loan from Sacramento to help get them through the next couple of years as they look at a regional sales tax to support public transit in the Bay Area. We do not have that here in Southern California, but that's what the Bay Area is doing as we all work to try to figure out how do we find this sweet spot of commuters and regional train service. So what we have done in the last 18 months, after about an 18 months worth of study, is we have changed our business model. And it's going to take time for this change to be realized where we see the success, but we've already seen the potential. On the left side of the slide, I'll call it our old business model. fully reliant on commuters, very much peak hour service. And that worked fine when you had commuters 5 days a week. We had to change that, knowing that that wasn't going to be sustainable. And we've gone and shifted from what we call was the commuter rail model to the regional rail model. And while commuters are still critical, we have to expand those markets. And you can see what we've tried to do here by adding more frequent service, more security, better connections. And I'm going to tell a story on the next slide that sort of paints the picture as we look towards how we change. But we are offering later night trains. We're offering trains throughout the day, non-peak service throughout the day, where you have a lot of frequency. The idea ultimately on the Metrolink board's direction is to do what we can to have a very regular level of service every half hour or every hour, depending on where you are in the region. So this is a critical part of what we do and what we've changed. Prior to the schedule change that we did about 18 months ago, we had trains coming in and out of LA Union Station at all different times of the day, but not with great connections. What we did 18 months ago was we shifted our schedule to make it much more intuitive so that a train can come in and it operates on the clock face. So my trains are leaving from to my Ventura County line at 4:30, 5:30, 6:30 in the evening. So it's very routine and usual. It's very easy for customers to understand that. On our San Bernardino line, where we have our greatest amount of service, those trains in some cases are leaving every half hour on the half hour or on the hour. So it makes it something that you really don't have to think about. But what really made this important, the example I have is this, is that this is combining students and this new schedule. As I said, I'm a regular rider on our trains, and I occasionally catch our trains at the Moore Park station because I have a few more train options. And I was getting off at the Moore Park station a month or two ago, and a young man comes up to me and he says, "Are you Mr. Kettle?" Depends. And of course, you know, I have a really good relationship connection with our riders. They know who I am. And I joke about I need a little thing, a sign at the desk that I sit, or the table I sit at, that says complaint department. But this young man comes up to me, he goes, "I want to thank you for this new schedule. I'm a student at UC Irvine. And 3 days a week, I get on my train at Moore Park. I'm able to take my train from Moore Park to LA Union Station. It's a 10-minute transfer to catch my train on the Orange County line that takes me to the Irvine station where I get to go to UCI, and then I come back 3 days a week." He says, "I would not be able to do that. I would not have this opportunity for a UC education if I didn't have this service." Now, that's one example of what we are seeing throughout the region. It's a lot of effort. One story is great, but this is something that we're seeing all over Southern California, and that potential is going to continue to grow. So financial stability. Now, this is the hard part of the conversation, given what we've all talked about. I mentioned that we have 72% of our revenues coming from our member agencies. We cannot continue to, our member agencies cannot continue to fiscally to provide the support at that level. Most of them are operating out of sales tax measures approved by their voters that are either sunsetting or are capped at a certain amount, and they were all done pre-pandemic. So we have to look at a different way of doing things. What I didn't highlight in that earlier slide is that only 11% of our operating costs are covered by fares today, whereas prior to the pandemic, it was around 39%. So it's a big change. And this is where this sort of bears this out, this slide. You can see in 2019, the nature of how our fare distribution covered expenses and where we are today in where we have that, again, 77% coming from our member agencies to support our operations. That we know is not a long-term solution. So we all talk about fiscal cliff. Somewhat dating myself to pull up Thelma and Louise. But this is our reality right now. And it's not just at Metrolink, it's for transit systems across California. Different states have had to wrestle with the same issues. Illinois recently, Pennsylvania recently. We're all struggling with this fiscal cliff question. We need in the regional rail space in Southern California, we critically matter. I will touch on the very last slide, talks about how we critically matter to SCAG and your RTP SCS. And if there's a commitment, we need to see dedicated revenues to support rail operations, passenger rail operations in this region. And it just can't be discretionary. It can't be year to year, which is what we have to do today. A year or so ago, we took this slide to the Metrolink board of directors saying, here are some options about what we could look at to how we fund our service. And at this point, we do not have consensus in the region on what might be the best approach. But what we do know is that our member agencies have said we have to figure out a different way of funding this service. You can see the kind of revenues that are generated here. Again, we don't have consensus in the region about how we go about it. So in the meantime, we are going every place we can, scratching and clawing for the resources to keep our train operations running. And this coming budget year is going to be a bit of a canary in the coal mine for our future. Unless, and I believe this is where it's critically important, we rally in Southern California and we go to Sacramento, and this region says we need resources to support public transit and regional rail to fund our operations. Now, some of the things we've done to try to make some headway, we have launched a new fare structure. It's in pilot right now. It has gone very, very well. A couple different things that we've done. This slide sort of does speak to it, but the importance is how we've simplified the fare structure. We reduced the number of fare options that are out there. We have a monthly pass that has been designed differently. Our old monthly pass used to was based on a 4-day-a-week commute. Well, who works 4 days a week and commutes 4 days a week? Not a lot. So we've modified our fare structure for our monthly pass to match up with 3-day-a-week commutes, which is far more prevalent in Southern California than what we're seeing today. And we've seen an immediate increase on purchases of monthly passes. The next slide will show that. We also have a day pass. Right now, $15. You can go anywhere in Southern California Monday through Friday. And on weekends, it's $10. So it is a matter of making it simple for the user and making it affordable for the user. This is what I was speaking to. We've seen a 25% increase in the purchase of monthly passes from where we had been in the past. We've seen an increase in our revenue per trip. And our new day passes account for 26% of our ridership. So that shows the change in our ridership and who they are. If people are only buying a day pass, they may be going into the office, if they're going into the office, a day or two a week. So the day pass is what makes sense for them. Rather than, and we still do have the one-way trip, so that's still available. Our ridership recovery right now, it hovers right around, we're right around 58% from where we are pre-pandemic. I am trying to get past the notion of talking about pre-pandemic. The fact of the matter is, the world is a different place. And if we keep looking back to 2019, we're kind of living in the old days, and we're not taking and really looking forward to where we need to be in this new normal that we live in. SCAG has been an amazing partner over the course of the years, and most recently, this is a really big thank you. We're going to be testing, thanks in large part to SCAG support, contactless open loop payments. What does that mean? It means on our San Bernardino line, this is where we're starting it, and should be implemented by summer, is that you can simply use your credit card. You don't have to go to the fare machine. You don't have to go to our app. You just simply use your credit card, tap it at a validator at a station. And when you get off at LA Union Station, you tap it again or whatever station. And that's how you use your fare. You do not have to actually buy a ticket. You'll be able to use your credit card. If you've traveled in Europe, you see that all over the place. And you're starting to see it more frequently here in the United States. We are going to be testing it on the San Bernardino line. I think it's going to be a great success. And we're going to start pursuing grant funds to be able to implement it on all 7 lines in advance of LA 28. Because I think the world understands how to use open loop. We would not have this opportunity were it not for SCAG's regional council providing us the funding to make it happen. So we're excited about that. Now, one of the things that we struggle with in this slide, if you've read through it, this is the thing as a CEO that really sort of, it's a bit of a gut punch when you hear from a rider that you're just not reliable. We've struggled with some reliability issues coming out of the pandemic. We've had some mechanical challenges with our fleet. We have brought on a new contractor that is that handles our mechanical and our train operations. We're getting them up to speed. We're already seeing improvement on our on-time performance. But people have a snapshot in time, and if they don't have a good experience, that one snapshot, we might lose that customer forever. And of course, in this case, I hope we're able to bring this customer back because we did not do what we needed to do to provide the quality of service, the experience that we want our system to provide. Safety, reliability, and cleanliness. We always hear from our riders. They want that reliability. Many of you may have heard over the course of the last few days, some of the things that we struggle with when it comes to on-time performance. We operate on freight railroad corridors. The Burlington Northern Santa Fe from Los Angeles to Fullerton, that's all owned and operated by BNSF. We are at their mercy. We also have the same on our Riverside line with the Union Pacific Railroad. So when freight trains that are going 40 miles an hour get in the way of our trains doing 70 miles an hour, you might expect that we're going to be a little slower. That does not help us with our customers. So we have to wrestle with foreign railroad issues. We have emergency matters that occur on our tracks. Sadly, yes, trespasser strikes. The board members from Metrolink that are here today receive far too many emails from our offices letting you know that we've had a tragic event. Yesterday, we had a particularly tragic event in Glendale. Those things happen in a 545-mile system, and our hope is that we try to clear things up as quickly as possible. I mentioned some of the challenges with our maintenance of our equipment, and we are still getting our new operator, Alstom, which is an international mobility company, who's only been with us now for 7 months in their role as train operations, having them learn that transitions are not always easy. And then another thank you to SCAG. Your regional council a few months ago approved the grant agreement with the state of California for the Solutions for Congested Corridors program that matched funding provided to us from another grant from AQMD to replace 12 Tier 2 locomotives with 12 Tier 4 locomotives, the cleanest burning diesel locomotives in the country, which, oh, by the way, we take extra credit because we use renewable diesel in all of our locomotives, where we were the first railroad in the country to go with renewable diesel in our fleet. And now a number of others have come on board. But we would not have had this opportunity to pursue these 12 locomotives had it not been for the partnership with SCAG. So our thanks on behalf of the Metrolink board to you. Why we matter? The SCAG Regional Transportation Plan, Sustainable Community Strategy, you adopt it every few years. We're a critical part to that. Reducing vehicle miles traveled is a critical part of everything we do. It is a surrogate for reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and to address climate change. You can see in FY24, we reduced vehicle miles traveled in this region by 96 million miles. And in FY25, 122 million miles. That directly supports SCAG's ability to find your SCS, your Sustainable Community Strategy, RTP, to meet all of the requirements under state and federal law. We are the backbone of Southern California's transportation plan. Now, we need to do better. We need to grow our ridership. And that is my governing board's mission at this point. And by extension, of course, my whole team. But this is why we matter. Do we have our challenges ahead? Sure. But we're counting on the support of our regional partners to help support this for that dedicated revenue stream ongoing so that we can actually plan for a future that looks like the Connect SoCal. Because we see that as our mission. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you very much, Darren. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on this item? No hand? Okay, great. Okay. Got one. Okay. Gotcha. All right, we'll go with okay, I want to say it. I will now entertain comments from members of the Transportation Committee. Just a reminder, if a member of the body is attending remotely, but is not at a location specified on the agenda, they may observe but may not participate in any discussion of the body. I see Ray's up. Go ahead, Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. CEO, 2 questions for you. Number one, what the hell is a SEMO?
It's an animal from Africa. And I'm joking aside, of course, we are the proud operator of the only hydrogen powered locomotive in the United States, actually in North America at this point. The zero emission multiple unit operates between San Bernardino and Redlands on a 9-mile segment that was fully funded by the SBCTA. We are the operator of it, and it is fueled with hydrogen. And so, you know, as you would expect with any first time, we're learning every day about hydrogen works and how it works on that ZEMU, but it is in regular revenue service. And again, the only emission is a couple drops of water.
Question, the Olympics, I know it's a big thing out here.
Member Mark, W to put your microphone on, please. Thank you.
Sorry about that. We got the Olympics coming up in 2028. Are we getting ready for it as far as Metrolink?
Mr. Marquez, the short answer is yes. No, we're blowing it off. So when I took this job 4.5 years ago, one of the things that excited me about it was the fact I'm a huge sports junkie. Love the Olympics. I went to the Olympics in 1984, where I drove my 1976 Chevy Vega up to almost the front door of the Anaheim Convention Center. You're not going to be able to do that in 2028. And it excites me to talk about what we can do for the Olympics. And so we are getting ourselves ready for LA 28. We have headwinds though. I liken this, my metaphor is if you're an Olympic athlete, you don't start training 2 weeks before the games. You start training years ahead of the games. We're in training right now, but to be in training requires resources. And we're talking about California right now, where the governor's budget does not right now recognize new additional dollars for public transit as had been committed in the past. We don't have that. So I'm afraid, Mr. Marquez, as you know, sitting on our board, that we are going to have tough conversations over these next few months as we wrestle with that question. We're prepared to do it. We have a plan to deliver a positive experience for the world when they come to Southern California. But like I said, we do have our challenges ahead, and our goal is to make sure we have every piece of our equipment ready to go and all the crews ready to go. The question is going to be, do we have operating dollars to actually make it happen? Thank you.
Member Wallace.
Hello, that was a good presentation. My question is, have you seen a decrease in criminal activity since you're saying about how the ride share is?
So what we've in many ways, we have been much more assertive in our fare checking process. What we generally see as it relates to criminal activity or items where, you know, our riders won't feel safe, is we're actually catching people before they get on the train. So we have seen a reduction in crime on our trains. What we have seen a huge increase in, however, is vandalism on our rights of way. And when I say vandalism, it is theft of copper wire. A railroad is asset intensive. We have systems all over the region, not just us, but our freight railroad partners. Same situation where their equipment is being vandalized, stolen, and we have to deal with those issues. So we've seen improvement as it relates to direct crime. What we have seen not as much improvement on, and unfortunately, is because that when we have copper wire stolen out of our signal boxes, our trains can only go 20 miles an hour at the fastest. So it really impacts our on-time performance.
Member McLean.
Hi, I'm Marsha McLean. Oh, I thought it was on. Sorry. And I wanted to thank you very much for this presentation. You know, small steps make big differences. And the fact for the schedule changes, putting it on the half hour for us in Newhall has been really great. So that's one really great thing. My biggest thing since I've been on this transportation committee for almost 20 years is to grow ridership and to enhance Metrolink. And advocating at Sacramento has to happen. When you're ready to go to Sacramento, I'd love to go with you. They need to understand that regional rail is the way to go, and Metrolink is a system that's already here. The governor has been very generous in giving $1 billion a year to high-speed rail, which at that rate is going to take them 100 years because it's going to be over $100 billion. But anyway, part of that money going to Metrolink and to our regional rail would make a big difference. So when you're ready to go, I'm there with you. But we do have late night trains during the week. It could be just a little bit later to be able to enable people going to sports games. We have probably over 500,000 people from Lancaster, Palmdale, Santa Clarita that are dying to take Metrolink to the games and to sports. Do you have like some kind of a date where we might be getting late night trains on the weekends? Because if you want to grow ridership, that's a way to do it.
We have said the Metrolink Reimagined program is phased. And I'm sorry, Ms. McLean, was that your last remark?
No,
okay.
actually I have.
No, I should take a list.
One more.
But real quickly, we look at Metrolink Reimagined, this new schedule, as it's going to be phased. This was what we could afford this first time. It did require additional funding from our member agencies to get us there. And you heard me just talk about the fact that this is not sustainable for our member agencies. So this is where we are today. My hope, if we can find that revenue stream that supports regional rail in this region that we can count on, that we would be looking at opportunities for more weekend service in particular, because where we have seen the greatest amount of growth is on our off-peak trains, either during the day or on weekends. So the opportunity is there. Southern Californians will use it. We just have to make sure we have enough service out there.
Right. Well, before your time, several years ago, when they were putting the sales tax onto the ballot, and they wanted to actually reduce Metrolink revenue by 1/2. And people can tell you who know me and have been around a while that I fought that, and so did our other cities, Najarian and Glendale and Burbank. We all fought that, and we got that changed to at least the current level. So that's just one little thing. And the last thing is when we want to buy a ticket, we can only buy one for the same day that we want to travel. And if you want to buy one for the next day, you have to wait till after midnight. And I've been a broken record on this one too. Is that going to change anytime soon?
It is on my list. It has. I don't want to say it's anytime soon. It is, but it is absolutely something we recognize because we've heard that same concern. So part of it is the limitations in our mobile app that we have that's been somewhat dated, and we're hoping to update in the not too distant future. But again, all of this does require those resources, updating an app. It does come at an expense. I certainly hear you. I've heard it. My mom, who lives in Rancho Cucamonga, reminds me of it just about every time I see her. So yes, it is. It's on our list.
Well, I just want to thank you for your innovative ideas that you've put forth so far. And the more, the better.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Member Sandoval.
Thank you, Chair. And Darren, thank you for your presentation. The comment by the rider was very sobering, and we who serve on the Metrolink board are well aware of reliability issues. So clearly the question of operations and finding the revenue for operations is critical, but we're certainly not going to get more riders if we're not a reliable system. Can you comment on those who produce trains, right? Are there tens of them? Are there hundreds of them? I think it would be valuable for this committee to know what that looks like for you in terms of being able to have the trains that you need to operate the system.
Thank you, Mayor Sandoval, for that softball question. So we the locomotives
He texted me right before the meeting and asked that I ask that question.
The locomotives that you've seen in my slide deck, those are called F-125 locomotives. They're Tier 4 locomotives. We are the proud owner of the only 40 ever built. We don't have experience with other railroads having that same piece of equipment. There are only two, well, there is now only one manufacturer of that Tier 4 locomotive. The manufacturer who made ours has demobilized their plant, and they are no longer making that locomotive. So that is a challenge in and of itself when you have the only 40 ever made. So getting parts and these Tier 4 locomotives, I will call them high performance. Our old locomotives, they were like F-150 pickups. These F-125s, they're like Ferraris. And they're spun up differently, they operate differently. And because of their maintenance schedules are every half the time, so instead of 8 years or overhauls, it's 4 years. So they're cost intensive. Now they're great because they're clean. As a Southern Californian who grew up with third stage smog alerts, I am glad we operate Tier 4 locomotives, but they come at a price. We are going to be looking at the next and again, getting parts. They require that. In this business, there aren't huge numbers of manufacturers, so we do have to wrestle with the question of supply chain. We are literally going and finding fabricators for some parts because the company has gone out that is no longer making those parts. The locomotive engine itself was actually designed for stationary and marine use, not nearly the vibrations that we put on it in a locomotive. So we are learning as we go and making progress all the time. But that reliability question is something that's so critical to make sure we get it right. Not to toot our own horn, last week we had a 96% SCRA responsible OTP. So that is what we are always trying to aim for. And we're starting to see that get better. But the equipment and parts, inventory, supply chain, that challenges not just us, but the entire industry right now, particularly with these new cleaner burning locomotives. We're not the only ones wrestling with that issue. Even, ours is just exacerbated by the fact that we have the only 40 ever made.
Thank you. Commissioner Tai.
Thank you. Mr. Kettle, I got to say, I think you're probably the most entertaining CEO I've ever listened to.
Where's Coleman?
And
thank you, sir.
And the fact that you can get Mr. Sandoval to ask an intelligent question is unbelievable. So, Ms. Wallace asked the question about safety, and my neighbor from Chino Hills, Mr. Marquez, takes the train. I won't get on the train from Diamond Bar to here because I don't think it's safe. And I don't know that I would get on it in City of Industry. It's getting off that frightens me. So I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how you come to make that go away. That would be really an answer for all of California, not just riding on a train. But my question for you is, got to be discouraging that the board of directors can't make up their mind on how to generate the resources that will be ongoing. And I want to ask you about high impact. If you could do anything, and the high impact is the deal, and we're looking between 430 million to $1 billion, will that be enough?
Yes. I think it's the right now our partnership is our member agencies. And it's not that my board of directors can't make a decision. I showed that slide of yes. The Joint Powers Authority that we operate under, the 5 counties, we operate in a consensus environment. Those 5 counties who have representatives here also go back to the agency that appoints them to our board, and they have their own priorities. That is the struggle that we go with, and I think that my board members have to wrestle with. I think my board members would love to go in that path, but they have to get their peers on those 5 transportation authorities from those kind to all sign on to that. Well, those same folks have other priorities, and I think that is one of the things as the CEO is that for me, operating Metrolink, us running our service, it is my number one priority. That's not always going to be the case with the 5 member counties that help support us. And that is something that we need to keep working on. And I have the best champions in my board members. They just have a real challenge going back to their other boards and saying, we got to continue to invest in this. And because there are limitations. I mean, the fact of the matter is, in a resource constrained environment, there are limitations. I recognize that. It just makes my job that much more difficult every year to have to go and generally explain why it is you should invest in Metrolink.
Commissioner Dutry.
Thank you, Darren. First of all, I appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Doing his introductions. I know LA Metro just got $90 million from the U.S. government for the Olympics. Did any of that going to come to us, or are you still waiting for the answer?
The latter. And the way that the funding is supposed to flow for both the World Cup and the Olympics, the World Cup, of course, being right around the corner, I think it's either the 94 million or the 100 million. There's a prescribed way that funding is going to be distributed based on venue jurisdictions. Our ask for World Cup is relatively modest to be able to run trains during the World Cup so that we can serve customers after events are over. As we look towards the Olympics, that's a bit more nebulous, and we have some much larger asks. World Cup, I think we're going to be at a better place.
Okay. Well, having this whole conversation here, all the transportation commissions involved in this, the money that's coming from that is from sales tax dollars for most of it. I think Ventura's might be an exception.
Mm-hmm.
The taxpayers are already paying for the system. At the end of the day, what we need is we just need more people riding the system again, paying the fares. That's the goal here. I realize there's a lot of challenges, and I think you're doing a good job. We'll see what we can get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question mark. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Judge. I wanted to make a couple of, the comments have added on as I've listened to my colleagues. I did want to mention the reliability, and the stat that you just cited for last week is very impressive. But I'll put the reliability of sitting on a train, the comfort of a train and doing work or relaxing or napping against sitting on the 91 or the 10 anytime. Because that's always a crapshoot on those freeways. You don't know what you're going to hit. And on a train, you have a driver. It's kind of nice. And I understand the ridership issue. We have not as many as we want because people are intimidated by new things. And getting on a train in Southern California is a new thing. And the only way we do that is by introducing people to it and being ambassadors to it and bringing other people along so they get comfortable on a train and they understand the positive aspects of getting on a train. And we could talk about the environment and all those sorts of other things, but you can talk about the immediate what's in it for me and sitting on a train and doing work and relaxing. There's a lot in it for you, and it's remarkably inexpensive to have that. The one thing I would like if you could put on that long list of to-dos for future consideration is I get on at San Bernardino Depot. And I believe that there are many people from the Coachella Valley, and that's where I'm coming from, who would, during those 110, 15, 120 degree days, like to go to the beach for a couple days and would be happy to take the train if they could go to San Bernardino Depot, but there's no overnight parking there. Mm. So on that long list of to-dos, if we could look at safe overnight parking in some of those locations, it would really be helpful.
And happy to add it to my list. One of the things I've learned in this role is I think the slide shows we have 65 or 67 stations in our system. My home station at Camarillo, you're allowed to park overnight in that station for 6 days prior to otherwise going to City Hall to get a permit for your dash. Every community handles them differently. So I will reach out to my good colleague, Carrie Schindler at SBCTA, and have her see what she can do with the city of San Bernardino, who probably is the entity that regulates that. Because we've heard that, and we have absolutely heard that if you're gonna put a service out there that supports overnight other options, then we need to have that.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, and thank you for the presentation
It was my
today.
pleasure.
Thank you. Commissioner Ahir?
Thank you, Chairman Judge. My questions and my concerns kind of echo what my previous two members had noted. It's the ridership. Now I understand that first of all, thank you for your presentation. That was really nice to know that your care goes beyond just the macro. It's going into the micros as well. My question pertains to your request for long-term funding versus discretionary. Knowing that you've mentioned that the current MetroLink funding relies only 11% on ridership, is that correct?
Yeah, fare revenues make up 11% of our revenues, yes.
11%, out of which only 25% of those riders will have day passes?
Correct, yeah.
So that's looking very, in a sense, not promising for someone to commit for a long term, especially taxpayer dollars, in my opinion. Is there any way we can meet in the middle? Like, do you have a marketing strategy that goes into play with these funds? And what does that look like? And also, would it be fair to say that discretionary funds, just to challenge, MetroLink to get more riders would be, something that we can look at?
We do have an extensive marketing campaign trying to drive new riders. It is a matter of the fundamental change in our world with, when you can always count on what I call the easy money commuters because they just bought a monthly pass and away we go. So now it's more like hand-to-hand combat. Getting people to say, I'm going to take the train is very un-Southern California. That's why the student element is so important for us to try to grow it because that's our future. Yeah. So we have shifted our marketing program beyond the commuter to taking advantage of other activities, discretionary trips, and we've seen that grow. It just is, but we had to have a schedule that would suit that. The new schedule does do that. That now we have to keep getting people interested in it. I think that's the one question is that it is not our hard wiring in Southern California to say I'm going to take public transit, I'm going to take trains. We have got to break that down. And the question came up on the Olympics. I think the best legacy we can lead is running a train system for the Olympics that hits everybody and shows that we can do it, because that's going to be the game changer. That is going to be what starts the culture change, is if people come to Southern California, wow, transit worked. And so that is why training is so important to be ready for that, because it really is their opportunity. It's sort of a make or break opportunity. Mm-hmm. The challenge with discretionary is it doesn't give you time to plan out. It doesn't give you a chance to have vision. If you're having to go every year saying, okay, this is what we need, you may give it 1 year, you may not. It's very hard to look towards that future to build on it. And that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. I understand that the resources and services you mentioned after your 18-month research will make it a lot more attractive. So I'm looking forward to that. But do you have like any kind of numbers that, that can facilitate this vote? Like, for example, if you're saying you want a 5-year funding, or what are the years that you're looking at?
As we've developed the new program, we're saying it's going to be to be really realized, to really know if it's going to reach its potential, is 3 to 5 years. Okay. And the hope is that we see that the first phase work, and then as we've heard, later night trains on weekends. And those are the kinds of things that we can plan for if we have the resources. Otherwise, again, I go to 5 counties, and each year it's okay, well, where are we today? Mm-hmm. And it's hard to have that longer term vision. But yes, I think we do have that 3 to 5 year window is what we're targeting as of now under the new schedule. Now, again, we have to have the resources to deliver on that plan, and that's a challenge for us.
Okay, so 3 to 5 years, and you're looking at ridership to increase your funding up to 20, 30, 40?
Well, our first game plan is to try to, as much as I've said, I want to get away from talking about pre-COVID numbers. It would be a big accomplishment given how our world's changed to get us back to those pre-COVID 40,000 daily boardings. Okay. That's something that we're shooting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Chair Judge.
Got it. Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. A couple questions, comments. I'll run them down, and you can go from there. Like any train system, where you pick it up and where you drop it off matters. If I can't get to the train conveniently, well, I'm not going to take it, right? And if where it's dropping me off, going back to the safety issue, I don't like where I'm being dropped off at. Well, I'm not going to take it either, right? I took a train once in Oakland, got off in the wrong stop. And I got to tell you, as a Marine, I was like, I don't know. When's the next train coming? I got to get back on this thing, you know? So that's important. But there's people that have to do that every day, right? So I joke, but it's true. Couple of things. Going to your Tier 4 locomotive, $87.4 million for 12 new Tier 4. When you purchased the Tier 4 automotives, obviously you looked around to see who else produced them, and you found, hey, it's only one company. Did anybody ever ask, what if the company goes out of business? And if so, what was the thought process in that? Now we're at the point where, as you were saying, we can't get parts. We can't get it's hard. So eventually, the train won't be able to operate because you can't get parts. So clean has a price, whether it's trains or anything else, right? Cars, airplanes, whatever it is. And I think sometimes we think we want to rush to clean because it's great, and it's great without thinking about the consequences that come with it, as you're in now, right? Now, $87.4 million is a lot of taxpayer money, whether it came from the Fed, state, whatever. It's all taxpayer money. My question is, since we can't get parts, eventually the trains won't be able to work anymore. You're gonna have to go back to Tier 2 or whatever the trains are. So now you got to rebuy that. So now we're out $87.4 million. And if we're trying to get people in the trains, couldn't that $87.4 million have been spent on free ridership, so they're not taking cars to where they're going, and still coming up with the same solution of reducing smog and traffic congestion on the 10 or near the freeway? It seems like if we're trying to eliminate pollution, trains is one way, but getting them out of the cars, as you were saying earlier, is what we want. And I feel like that $87.4 million could have been used either for free ridership, better stops, overnight parking, a whole host of other things, right? You get where I'm going. Basically.
Yes. So when we purchased the Tier 4 locomotives that we have, those 40, there were two companies making them at the time. The company we bought from and a company that is here based in California. Siemens is the maker of that, based in Sacramento, who have now made hundreds of these locomotives. We just happened to go with Progress Rail, who made the locomotive that we purchased through a competitive procurement process. Little did we know that they wouldn't be in a place where they are today. They were relatively quickly demobilized. Well, not quick. A few years later, they demobilized when they were not winning new contracts, and Siemens somewhat cornered the market. So the 12 locomotives now that we'd be purchasing with those dollars, will, not to get ahead of ourselves, our board has other decisions it has to make, but there is one manufacturer in the country that is making them for railroads across the country. So I expect that we will have the ability to have that certainty and reliability from a parts perspective, and their support from a mechanical perspective much more so than we have with the 40 that we have today. It was a decision that was made that we live with. The good news is that our new mechanical and train operations contractor, Alstom, has leveraging and buying power. We're able to fabricate. So we're going to continue. I don't see us putting those out the pasture. We're going to get 30 years of life out of those Tier 4. Fundamentally, locomotives are very, it's something we joke about. It's 1800s technology. I mean, it's really, this is a little bit higher end than that, but it is something that we can work with fabricators and manufacturers to get those parts. We're doing that today, and I'd expect we'll do that long into the future. The upside is that we can provide certainty that we are going to need these parts for these 40 locomotives for the next 25, 30 years. So that does create some certainty in the industry that we can make sure we can tap for parts.
Okay. And we've got other speakers today, and we want to thank you for your comments today, but we got some more questions. Let's get through them pretty quickly. Commissioner Becerra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. You know, the idea of going from this concept of commuter rail to regional rail, I mean, that just seems very intuitive because we're not a commuter society. I mean, the more infill development we have throughout the region, this idea of people being outside of LA, only coming into LA and then leaving is beyond outdated. You know, for Santa Ana, we're the capital of Orange County. We have our younger city to the south in Irvine, and a lot of folks come from the Inland Empire into Santa Ana. For the longest time, the last Metrolink train to leave Santa Ana to go out to the Inland Empire during the week was 6:50.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, for folks that are working in my city, it just doesn't make sense. And so I appreciate that you guys now have a 7:50 train, which is, we're getting there, right? But I didn't want to, be left out with everybody asking for a million things from you. So I just wanted to throw in a little bit. Wanted to throw in and say, not only should we have, more trains coming later in the evening, but I would say even later, beyond midnight. I mean, for, those folks that are taking the train into LA, into Santa Ana, they're coming, they're enjoying our nightlife. We'd like to see them get home safe and not endanger anybody else on the roads. So that would be a great, way to look at that. And even later on in the evenings, I mean, frequency isn't as important as span, as having that availability. Because one thing, whenever I would encourage people, you should take the train, it's great for all the reasons everybody else here has already said, they go, well, I don't want to be stranded.
Yeah.
That's always the word I hear, stranded. I don't want to be stranded somewhere, whether it's the Oakland type scenario or whether it's, anywhere. Just the idea that they don't have their car. As you said, it's very un-Southern Californian to not have your car, right? So you're taking that leap of faith, but if you're stranded, you sure as hell aren't going to get back on the train if you're stranded somewhere because of the train. So
it all comes down to, putting as much service as we can afford to do. And I mean, we want to continue to see this evolution happen. Hitting those markets are exactly what we're doing. And during weekdays, we're doing a better job at that. To Miss McLean's question earlier, I mean, we have a train that leaves LA Union Station at something right around 11 o'clock or so in the evening at night. It arrives in Lancaster at 1 o'clock in the morning. So those are things that we can do. It just does require resources.
Right. Commissioner Molina.
Good morning. Nice to see you. I'm originally from Los Angeles and grew up on public transportation, moved out to Riverside County in the early 2000s. And that's not the case there. We're so spread out there. But as a Riverside Transit Agency board member, Metrolink board member, and RCTC commissioner, I'm everything transportation. I talk it up wherever I go. And you'd be surprised how many people don't know how easy it is to take a bus, a train, and then connect to it. There are apps that tell you for each agency when the last and first rides are available and so on. And so we just had our RCTC annual workshop, and I brought up, we need to do public service announcements to tell people how about the connectivity, how important it is. You manage your time and it's an option. Get people off the freeways. We're doing the Coachella Valley Rail. That's going to take a while, but it's an option. And you'd be surprised. I talk it up everywhere I go, and to whoever will listen, how many people have never ridden a train? How many people have never ridden a bus? To me, that seems unbelievable. But I think that would help us go a long ways. I know we have to work together to get the same, we're all after the same funding, but public transportation is what we need here. There's too many people. And so I just recommend that we do that. And I'm a supporter of all transportation modes, even the little scooters, which I don't do very well on. And the e-bikes, that's another issue. But I just want to say, we all have to work together and get that information out there so that people know it's not a dangerous thing. Riding east to west, it's really safe and clean and on time. West to east, that's a different story, I think. But it's still the way to go, mass transit. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lara.
Thank you for the presentation. I'd like to go back to Honorable Sanchez's question, because you answered the first part, and the first part was in regards to the fabrication of parts, the potentiality that there's scarcity for the current trains that we've purchased. But his second question is more philosophical. And Honorable Sanchez, please correct me if I'm misrepresenting the second part of your question, which was, we've spent $87 million on these clean trains. could have the money been better served buying less clean in regards to the environment, and we could have funneled that money towards pushing up ridership? Could you touch on that?
Yes, so I do understand the question. In our business, we talk about color of money and what color of money can be used for. That $87 million is strictly for capital. It comes from sources that can only fund for capital. The kinds of programs you're talking about related to providing discounted rides or other incentives to get people onto trains, those are generally considered operating costs or operating support, and that money can't be used for it. So we pursue dollars that become available for the things that we can do, and in an interest to make things cleaner, better for the environment. But we wouldn't be able just to take it from one hand and put it in the other for that purpose. That's why that grant that helped support our students ride free program was such a great success, because that was funding our fare box. Those are and that is, again, I came for a day, I'd see that program funded by the state, so it would support students into our programs and support regional transit, because I think that's our future. So yeah, I mean, but that's what the money was for, and we are under in our board has adopted a climate action plan that talks about going to Tier 4 locomotives in Southern California. That matters, and I think frankly it also helps support SCAG's Regional Transportation Plan SCS, because you have to meet air quality conformity with that document, and our Tier 4 locomotives help SCAG do that.
Okay. Commissioner Marquez, did you have another question or just?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Darren, I heard earlier about safety concerns and issues. And I know that we have an issue. A lot of times we hear in the news, there's issues, problems. And I'm going to say LA Metro has done a tremendous job the last couple of years trying to improve their security. What have we done as an organization?
So we have multiple agreements with law enforcement in Southern California, both Los Angeles County Sheriff as well as San Bernardino County Sheriff. We have private security on all of our platforms at Los Angeles Union Station. We do different fare enforcement on all of our lines. We do something that's called streetcarring, where people have to go only through one door to access a train so we can check their ticket. Where we see the greatest amount of crime or any sort of violent acts is oftentimes it's someone who gets on our train without fare. So if we can get them before they get on our train, we're going to reduce that crime before it ever happens. So those are just some of the things that we're working on. We're also doing elements of trying to remove homeless encampments on our rights of way, because sometimes those end up being trespasser strikes or vandalism on trains. So it is a multi-pronged approach to ensure safety and security on our trains. And we are working really closely with LA Metro at LA Union Station and the subway system to improve safety and security, people's peace of mind. I'm a regular user. I see it every day, and I'm seeing steady progress with our partners at Metro to make safety and security, not that it wasn't emphasized before, but continue to emphasize it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Darren, for a great presentation. And I can speak from experience, that having Darren at the helm of this organization makes me feel very confident and lucky. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. Thanks all.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 8, Road to LA 28, Regional Transportation Demand Management. And Courtney from Dwyer will be presenting this.
So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Courtney Aguirre. I'm the Mobility Planning and Goods Movement Manager at SCAG. This morning, I'm going to be sharing with you highlights from our efforts to prepare for the games, specifically our transportation demand strategy. I'm going to be going at a quick clip because of time, so please appreciate that I'm not meaning to skim over certain details. Speaking of time, we only have 127 Fridays before the games are here, before our opening ceremonies. And I have to admit, it feels a little odd to be noting this as opening ceremonies are happening this week for the Winter Games, something I'm super excited about. I know Darren noted he's a sports junkie. I'm an Olympics junkie. If you ever want to talk, we can go into spreadsheets, you name it. I'm in the rabbit holes. But regardless, this means we have about 29 months to go, right, to get the region together and to coordinate effectively on the games. And so we don't have a lot of time, but we do have some testing grounds, some opportunities presenting themselves really soon through the World Cup, which is here in less than 6 months, right? Our partners are doing a lot of good work with that, and we're hoping we can learn from those experiences and apply them to the games. So in 2 short summers, we're going to be seeing more people than we've ever imagined in our region. We're hoping we're going to have a very vibrant region, one that's activated, and again, full of people that feel welcome. So in terms of, our past, our history, we're very fortunate, right, that this is not our first rodeo. We have hosted games in the past, 1932, not sure many of us remember that, but 1984, right? Many of us do have some memories of that time. And from what I've heard from other folks who were there, it was a very positive experience for them, whether they were volunteers or attending, seeing races from outside their homes. I've heard all the stories and would love to hear yours more directly. But regardless, SCAG did learn from those games. We developed our own impact report to evaluate the transportation strategies that we understood to be most effective for those games. And though a lot of time has elapsed, those lessons still hold. We know that transportation demand management for freight as well as passenger and coordinated communications are what it's going to take in order for us to manage the game's operations, travel effectively. In terms of, the games and how they're going to be impactful for the region, you've already started some of those conversations with Mr. Kettle earlier, right? I understand the games are weighing on a lot of us. They're going to be incredibly impactful for the region because the venues are dispersed, right? It's not just in the city of LA, but in Long Beach, in Anaheim, right? We have Trestles Beach towards San Diego, which are all going to be hosting events. And you can see that the games have grown considerably from what they have been, even in recent years on the slide before you. Those are just some fun facts. And as I was referring to the venues that are dispersed across our region, you can see a map here that's being updated regularly. I understand, some soccer venues were recently identified as well. It is the equivalent, they say, of 7 Super Bowls per day during that 2-week time period of the games and 2 Super Bowls per day during the Paralympics. So it's going to be, again, a very heady and significant time for us. Which is going to be great. And I hope that you have all taken advantage of the opportunity to register for the first LA28 ticket draw. The tickets for the games are going to be distributed through multiple draws. This is your first opportunity to register. I think registration actually closes March 18th. So if your friends and family haven't, we do urge you to. And as you can see on the slide before you, there is high demand for the games. Already 1.5 million people just in the first 24 hours registered because they're interested. So it's going to be an incredible experience, and there is local preference. So again, I do encourage you to register for the games. In terms of what SCAG is doing, so we're fortunate that we are playing a unique role in helping the region prepare for the games. More specifically, we are the transportation demand management lead for the games mobility executives. That means that we have a responsibility to ensure that the region is coordinated, that the region is prepared and aligned on transportation demand management. And the foundation of our work was laid just last year. Hopefully you're already familiar with our games mobility program, but if you're not, it's outlined here, and the focus is on legacy infrastructure. How can we motivate innovative pilot projects and potentially permanent projects in the future? And how can we strengthen our communities? So in terms of TDM itself, I have a couple of slides here defining it a bit further for you. It's a wonky term if you haven't heard it before, transportation demand management. It's suggestive, right? But what does it actually mean in practice? So for passenger rail, you can see a breakdown of certain options for passenger TDM, and that's wayfinding, communications, bike and pedestrian improvements, shuttles, transit. It's really just trying to motivate people to consider alternative options. And as I think I've heard during the prior presentation, there is support for mass transit here. And so hopefully you'll appreciate that our interest rate is encouraging people to take transit first or any other potential option, which is more efficient than just getting in their car by themselves and thinking that they can park at a venue, which will not be an option. So we are also, of course, considering freight TDM because from the 84 games, we do know that it's incredibly important for us to coordinate goods movement. We have, millions of containers coming through our ports, millions of tons of cargo coming through our airports every year. And we need to account for that and consider how goods are going to be moving across the region and getting to businesses and to homes, right? So there are a variety of strategies that we can test, that we can also implement in order to address those issues. It's going to, again, require considerable coordination with our freight stakeholders. For the regional TDM strategy overall, again, there are two components. There's freight as well as passenger, and I'm going to get into the details of what that larger strategy includes. Regional convenings and partnerships. We convene a GME TDM subcommittee on a monthly basis. If you have staff who are not already engaged in our TDM forums, I encourage you to reach out. Those are hosted on about a quarterly basis, but we recognized is we needed to expand the table. It couldn't just be the games and mobility executives, right? The games are going to impact the larger region, and we needed to engage as many staff from agencies as we could. So we have forums on a quarterly basis to make sure everyone's up to speed on the latest from LA28, from SCAG, our partners, and they know what's happening and how to prepare. We also have engaged in a variety of one-on-one stakeholder meetings. We're continuing to do that. We recognize that everyone across the region is not always hearing the same information at the same time. And so we're doing our best to, again, engage with people, learn more about what their plans include and their concerns, quite frankly. And so this is just a laundry list of all the folks that we have had an opportunity to connect with. It's significant for us, but again, we understand that this is not ending. This is, again, going to continue. In terms of the specific plans, as I mentioned, we have one that's focused on freight, one focused on passenger. They include a variety of different components. We want to work with our consultants to do travel demand forecasting because, of course, we recognize we need to know which areas are going to be most impacted. And we need to know, again, where to target our resources and our communications. And so, again, these plans are going to be coming to you. I'll talk a bit more about that later, but they're going to be coming to you for your consideration this spring and again in the summer. In terms of resources, we recognize that we need to support the larger region. And so we are enhancing our TDM toolbox to focus on mega events, to share that with, again, our partners such as cities. We have already published a Games TDM resource guide. If you haven't glimpsed it, I encourage you to, because it does help orient people to the games and the work that LA28 is doing, that SCAG is doing, and how to activate your communities and leverage existing partnerships with business improvement districts, with your parks and rec departments, right, to consider how you can align your current efforts for the games specifically. It's a good, again, orienting piece that we're regularly refreshing. And again, resources to come would be outreach to businesses and employers, as well as communications resources, because I think, as you've noted, and as we learned from the 84 games, centralized communications, consistent messaging, and deployment across our partner agencies, such as Metrolink, is going to be enormously important. I've already touched a bit on the potential passenger TDM strategies. You can see options here. But again, we're going to be evaluating with our partners what makes the most sense, what will have the most impact, recognizing that resources are constrained. Freight TDM also has a variety of different options, again, highlighted on the slide for you, off-peak deliveries, perhaps parcel lockers, right? Anything that we can do in order to ensure that goods are getting to where they need to be on time, but are not impacting, right, the roadways, so that we don't have, container trucks competing with our spectators, with our athletes, with you all, right, as you're trying to go places at this time. In terms of the overall timeline, this is a quick synopsis by year, what you can expect. Again, we're going to be returning to you all in the spring and then again in the summer with our plans, as well as our intentions for which programmatic categories of projects we could fund. And then we'll be returning to you at regular intervals to keep you apprised of our progress and working with our partners, again, to implement these projects and programs and to evaluate them and to, again, ensure that everything is working and coordinated for the games, that they're not a disaster, but that they're instead an enduring legacy for us. Everyone, again, speaks very positively about the 84 games, and I think we want to have those memories created and built for ourselves as well. This is a larger timeline. You can see we have opportunities that are coming up, as I mentioned, World Cup as well as the Super Bowl. We have testing opportunities certainly ahead of us for us and our partners so that we can assess what's working for our region. In terms of next steps, I've already shared this, that we will be returning to you in the spring as well as the summer with updates and requests for your approval. And I'm going to end on I guess, a quote that I internalized many years ago at the Orange County Performing Arts Center. It's a quote from composer Leonard Bernstein. To achieve great things, two things are needed: a plan and not quite enough time. I'd argue he missed out on one important thing as a composer: music to propel us. So next time I'm coming with a playlist, I could, or not. I want to thank you again for this understanding this quick tour through highlights of our TDM efforts. I'm going to invite up here guests that we have from GoCal to present on their efforts to prepare for the games in their area of the region. That's the Greater Ontario Tourism and Marketing District. So we have Michael Kraus as well as Justin Balancio, who are going to share highlights of their efforts to prepare. So.
Thank you for that introduction. Great to be with you all today. I'm Michael Kraus, and I'm the president and CEO of GoCal, which is the Visitor and Convention Bureau for the cities of Ontario and Rancho Cucamonga here in the Inland Empire. A couple of quick things to do a setup. I'm not going to do most of the speaking. I'm going to have my counterpart work here on that. But a couple of quick things we wanted to share with you related to the Olympics. Get a lot of questions about this in the Inland Empire, a lot of questions from surrounding communities. How are we going to benefit in our communities from the Olympics that are coming to Los Angeles? Everyone seems to think we're going to be doing games in the Inland Empire. No, it's not happening. We have no venues that are being activated, et cetera. Very few present an opportunity. So we believe the opportunity exists with early arrivals and associated in our universities and other elements of our communities to get advanced visitation. So what I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit about how we're funded and how we work before Justin comes up. The Visitor and Convention Bureau in the cities of Rancho and Ontario are funded through an assessment district. Many of you are familiar with them. There's more than 100 of them in the state of California. We receive a 3% assessment that the hotels collect from a tourist visitor, from a guest in their hotels. Many of you see this on your hotel bills, same as Visit California at the state level. That funding comes to us, and we use that to market and sell the destination. I have a large marketing team and a large sales team who help go out and pursue business opportunities for our destinations. That funding is what you're going to hear here is used to help do our Olympic initiatives. So having said that, I think I'll go ahead and introduce Justin and let him tell you how we have harnessed the Olympics for 2028. Justin, come on up here and give a little tour on what we're doing.
All right. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Michael. Before we jump into this and we get into kind of what our business strategy has been in GoCal in the Greater Ontario region, I do want to preface it by saying these strategies that we're deploying are probably being deployed in your cities as well. It's not something that we've invented or created. I think it's an element of the games that comes with being the host country. And so we're excited to be a part of it and for us to be able to try to bring some of that impact to our community. It'd be important for us to acknowledge that our efforts, they aren't starting now. They've begun the last 2-3 years. And we realized that an important factor for us as a destination to be considered as a pre-games training facility or destination is to establish a rapport with our national governing bodies here at the USA Olympic House, proving that we have the capability of the infrastructure in our destination to support high performance competition and training. And so how did we do that? Like Michael said, we've used our marketing funds to go out there, get face-to-face with rights holders, with the decision makers at the NGB level to organize these events and to earn their trust. And essentially lay a foundation in our destination to say, hey, we have the capabilities to put on these top tier events that we've have a few examples listed there, and along the way generate, $1.4 to $2 million in economic impact for some of these larger events that we're bringing to our community. So being able to use these as examples to the National Olympic Committees that are now seeking destinations to find or to perform their pre-games training, being able to use this as that foundation has been very helpful for us. But before we committed to that pre-games training model, we did, obviously want to weigh all of our options and opportunities to find what we thought was going to be the best fit for our community and how we'd be able to leverage and capitalize on the Olympics coming to LA, again, best for ourselves. And like Michael mentioned, I think we ruled out pretty quickly that being an official venue city was going to be slim to none for us to be able to do that. So shifting our focus on pre-games training and as part of being a pre-games training venue, also incorporating fan festivals and incorporating exhibition matches leading into the games. And so that's where our focus has shifted. But we also understood that as a destination, we needed to make sure that we were checking off all the boxes in order to earn the business from these National Olympic Committees. And so in order to do that, we found partners that had a shared vision with what we were trying to accomplish with the two local colleges there at the Claremont colleges with CMS Athletics and Pomona Pitzer. They've again had that shared vision with us on how we can present ourselves as a destination in order to bring these National Olympic Committees to our destination, and we'd be able to benefit from the impact that comes along with the pre-games training concept. And so this is just a quick breakdown of what that concept looks like, what an proposed athlete services center would look like at our existing convention center, how we would essentially create a quasi-athlete village for the 2 weeks before they actually move into the official Olympic Village. So creating this concept, creating marketing for it, going out, getting in front of the correct people, and introducing our destination as the premier pre-games training facility or destination. And in order for us to do that, we wanted to make sure that we were putting all of our eggs in the correct baskets. And so we just recently had a study completed. Actually, we just got the data yesterday, so it may not be in your packet, so I do apologize for that. But I will share with you some of the highlights here. So based on what we're presenting or what we're planning as part of our concept, we're looking at essentially 64 active event days when you factor in, approximately 12 days of pre-games training, 16 days of the Olympic Games or the Fan Festival. You include exhibition matches leading up to the games that could start anywhere from now all the way till 2028. And then you look at the Paralympics as well. We're looking at about 64 total event days. And what does that mean for attendance and for the number of people coming into our communities? Well, based on our projections, we're looking at about 37,000 people entering our community over that span of 64 days. And so as we look at the economic impact that those 37,000 people will bring, it is pretty significant. And like Michael mentioned, with our funding coming from that TMD assessment, we always go to room nights and we look at what is that going to do for our stakeholders, which are our hotel partners. And again, based on the projections with the pre-games training, exhibition matches, and fan festivals, we're estimating about 8,200 room nights. And when we factor in the day trippers that may be coming in for some of these exhibition matches, as well as wanting to just get involved with the fan festivals, we're looking at about 23,000 trips over that span of time. And when we look at what that means on how much these people are going to be spending when they're in our communities, HVS created this equation or this equation model for us, and we'll see how that translates into direct spending impacts. And so again, this is just factoring what those previous slides highlighted with a number of individuals that would be visiting our destination, and then what that means as far as how much they'd be looking to spend. And it's broken down here by overnight delegation attendees, overnight leisure attendees, as well as your day trip attendees, broken down on what their average amount that they would be spending when visiting our community. And when we look at the gross direct spending, it ultimately equates to what we're estimating to be about an $11.1 million in gross direct spending for the city of Ontario, as well as $9.9 million in gross direct spending for the county of San Bernardino. Factoring in employment as well, that's going to have the impact during this time. That brought your impact up to about 10 million in the city of Ontario and about 12.5 million in the county of San Bernardino, with 79 jobs across all sectors being supported in the city, as well as 99 jobs in the county. On top of the financial benefits that obviously drive what we do and how we measure a lot of our success, I think we have to highlight the additional benefits that we would also be able to benefit from. And a lot of that is going to go back to our community engagement and making sure that we're bringing a piece of the Olympics out to the Inland Empire, letting them get that experience. If you're not able to win that draw and get your tickets to go experience the games, you can watch these exhibition matches in your backyard. You can watch these athletes train before we send them off to the Olympic Games. So getting that youth interaction there, that social media visibility, and then again, our community legacy, and having those future connections for hopefully bringing these countries back for additional visits, maybe on the leisure side, whether it be their families or the athletes coming back to visit us here in Southern California. And then how are we promoting our destination as being able to support these athletes and families coming to town? It's obviously using all the existing transportation methods that we currently offer. It's again, we were able to use those previous national events that we were able to host as a example of being able to have the infrastructure to support the amount of travel and the tourism that those large scale events brought to our destination. So relying on the existing transportation, including the new GOAT, Greater Ontario Area Transit, that we rolled out last month. And then just promoting again our destination as a place to come and visit and spend your money, and whether that be through local businesses, through our venues at the Toyota Arena, enjoying a concert or a game while you're in town, taking advantage of all the activities that we have to do in our region. That's how we're promoting this to the National Olympic Committees. And the reason we're doing it now is because honestly, right now is probably already too late. I mean, like I said, we've been working on this the last 2-3 years, and we're getting in front of the right people. And we're very close to hopefully making an announcement pretty soon on one of the large National Olympic Committees that will be committing to doing their pre-games training with us. And I've listed a few examples of some of the organizations that we've been going after, and kind of where we gauge the numbers from on the visitation level based on how large these organizing committees travel. And you see how many total athletes, coaches, and staff that they bring with them. Not to say we're going to capture all of these, but these are just a few examples, the type of organizations that we're looking to partner with to hopefully bring some of that Olympic impact to our region leading into the LA 28 games. And so with that was pretty quick. I just wanted to run through. I'll invite Michael back up if there's any questions.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Due to our time constraints and our hard stop in 5 minutes, we're going to limit these seriously because we don't have the time.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Do I still? Okay. So at this time, I do have to ask if there's any members of the public who wish to speak on this item. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Are we moving to 9? What's a hard stop? Yes.
Andy, do you think we can get through, or do you want to?
Mr. Ajise, before you leave the room, we're going to do a time check here. We've got one item left, the SoCal 2050 process preview. We're wondering, do we have a hard stop right at 11:15, or should we move that to another agenda?
Yeah, we can postpone to next month.
Great. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Thank you all for coming again. I didn't say it earlier because we haven't met since last year. So Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody had a great New Year's and holiday season. And we're going to adjourn the meeting. So thank you very much for coming.